Oh, yes, that is definitely there. I'm not tripping out of my mind. I'm not hallucinating. There's nothing swirling in my vision. I'm not getting things melting. The ceiling hasn't turned into an ocean. I'm not at that level. I'm barely under the influence of this thing. And then, boom, it's right there, and it's just there.
This is breakthrough research.
There is a lot of writing that is what looks like Indian architecture to me.
I see a pattern of code.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just like linked together.
I am Allah, I am Yahweh Ababa, no one may testify.
All right, this is the DMT laser experiment, take 2. Good to see you guys. And so as you can see, if you look back here, there's the trusty laser that I've had for the last, 5 months perhaps since I made that first video, and of the unboxing and me trying, for a few numerous occasions there to see the code, and I was unsuccessful. I was unsuccessful at that time, but I wanted to come back and report that there has been a change to that. First of all, I ended up having Danny Goler on the podcast a few weeks after that video, which was awesome. Great conversation. I will put the link in this video if anyone wants to watch that. It was super cool having him on, and some deep, pretty, profound things came out of that conversation, I thought. I learned a lot for sure. And nonetheless, I had been wanting to, revisit the experiment, and it took me a couple months till I could find some conditions that were appropriate enough for me to feel comfortable. So I had the space, the support, everything else, all the conditions were there, and I ended up attempting it again, and it took me about 5 or 6 or 7 maybe even tries more. And then finally, I saw the code. Now, I want to talk about in this video why I think that the code is actually there. This isn't to say anything at all about what it is, right? We're calling it the code of reality. That's what Danny has dubbed it. But we don't know what that means. That's just the name that we're giving it. We don't know what it is, but I can share with you from my experience, and you're probably thinking, well, like, it took you 15, almost 20 tries maybe before you finally, hallucinated it, before you finally were able to convince yourself, and his suggestion was able to sink in. But I don't think so. And I want to explain in this video why I do believe that there is something there, that the code is actually real. It's not just a mass hallucination. And then, pretty much that's it. We'll kind of go from there. Before I get into that really quickly, I do want to mention that part of the reason why I haven't made that video yet is because I have been doing some traveling and studying with my teacher and a number of other, of the students and practitioners and things. And it's like every time I go to one of these trainings, something major shifts within me, and it takes me a little bit to kind of come back and integrate those things and really sort of rediscover who am I and like what am I doing here and why am I making these videos again. And so sometimes we have a big shift, and it's like, I realized like this is really important to me over here, but these other things I would just thought that that's what we were supposed to do. So I can sort of see that a bit more clearly, and I can let those things go. And just really it's about sharing more and more of my authentic true being, and in ways that are hopefully, entertaining or interesting, thought-provoking or intriguing, or perhaps even enlightening in some way. So without further ado, let me get into my reasoning. First of all, so I'm looking into the laser, not into the laser, guys, but, into the reflection of it on the wall surface. And I'm right up close to it, and I'm looking, can't see anything. Okay, we try it again a few minutes later. Still nothing. And I just remember, Danny talking about how you got to really look small, like super, super, super tiny at first. So I just kept doing that. And lo and behold, what happened was these symbols started to appear on a surface that I could perceive, which was behind the wall. Okay? Now, I'm not saying it was actually behind the wall. It might have been another dimension for all I'm saying, but in terms of where it appeared to be positioned from my senses was about, maybe a foot in, 6 inches or a foot in behind the wall. And so what happened was, though, just as he said, very, very tiny. It's like as if you're looking through a microscope. If you ever look through a microscope, the aperture that opens up is very tiny. It's very small. So you can see very, very clearly and very, very magnified, but only in that tiny space where the focal lens is pointed. But if you move the Petri dish around or whatever it is, the slide, then you can see all over it, but just in tiny little spaces at a time. You move it around and, oh, I see that tiny space. Now I see that tiny space. So it was kind of like this, where I could only see like a little, like a dime size, maybe not even a dime size. It was probably like a pinprick size for all I know, but I'm zooming in as much as I can with my eyesight, and I see this tiny space. Maybe it's the size of a dime. And in that space, there are maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 characters or something like that I can see. And they're sort of emblazoned in this surface, which I can't really see the surface, but I can see that there's some sort of a surface because it has contours. That's the best way I can describe it. So you can see as I track my vision, then some of the contours of the surface, whatever it is, comes into view. Like it goes around a curve here, it goes in a little bit, but everywhere I look there is this code. There are these symbols, and not apparently to me appearing in any particular order. They're all of a similar type. They're not random, but each one is unique, and I don't see them repeating in any organized patterns whatsoever. It seems to be like there's endless numbers of them, and they're everywhere. They're literally everywhere, but I can only see them a bit at a time. Now, I think that the more familiar your eyes get to focusing in this way, and the more it comes into coherence for you through repeated experiments, this is what I'm gleaning from what I've heard from others, Danny specifically, is that more of the code becomes apparent. The clarity with which you see it increases, and there are superstructures that can be seen, which are, they weren't visible to me. Like I said, I can only focus on a very tiny area. Okay. So that was pretty much it. I tried the experiment one more time, to be fully honest, and I didn't see the code that time. And it just felt like, okay, I've had enough. I don't want to push it anymore, so I'm going to set this down. And I just haven't gotten back to it. That's been a couple months now. Yeah. And so, again, let me explain a little bit now about why I believe that this is not just an hallucination and there's actually something that's there. It's because it's like this. There are various gradations of being under the influence of hallucinogens. Now, I have a lot of experience with hallucinogens. Not the most by any means, but quite a bit more than what would be considered normal or average, I suppose. I'm not saying that to brag. Most of it is in my deep past. Like the large majority of it is back there. However, I just say that to give some context. Like, I do have some experience with these things, and there are many gradations of tripping, okay, for lack of a better word. You can be barely tripping, where things are just like a little sparkly. You just notice, things are a little bit brighter. You can totally function like this. Like, people would never even realize. They just think you're in a good mood. But nonetheless, this is, just like you could say a half of tab of LSD might put someone into this type of a state, or a quarter tab even. A microdose of mushrooms can do this as well. Like if you err a little bit on the larger side of a microdose, like maybe half a gram to a gram, certainly things are going to brighten up. But you're not hallucinating. It's enough to feel the influence of the substance, but not enough to distort your vision to a place where it's like bizarre or, swirling or any mandalas or any of that sort of stuff. We're just talking about just the threshold of the experience, okay? And then you can be, on the other end of the spectrum, you can be so fully immersed in the experience that you entirely lose touch with this reality and this dimension, and you are, for all intents and purposes, somewhere else, in another dimension, having an experience that is incredibly novel, perhaps likely deeply profound, not necessarily, but it just even in terms of the intricacies of the visuals, let's say, at that level of inebriation, we could say, there's generally quite a bit going on in the visual field that is profoundly exotic and or just mind-blowing. So in any case, but at that stage of the game, you don't have any, you're out of touch with this reality. You're not going to be looking into a laser on the wall trying to see code. You're going to be off exploring, time elves or like titans, or some sort of insectoids that are the meta agents that run the universe for God. Who knows? I have no idea what you might encounter, but it won't be this realm at that level. So again, many gradations. And what separates, let's say, on the DMT molecule, what separates sort of losing touch or losing entire contact from this reality to that other one, they call breaking through or sometimes blasting off. And so that amount of the molecule wouldn't be conducive to seeing the code unless you actually, come back from it and maybe you're still high, let's say. Then perhaps it could. But nonetheless, I don't know why that camera just did that. Get back here, you. And so in any case, a light dose is kind of what we want. We want to still have our wits about us and not be tripping balls, so we don't even have an ability to perceive that, what are the layers of dimensions of swirling mandalas and rainbow, intricacies and geometrical shapes and things that I'm trying to look through. I have so much going on, so much stimuli. It would likely make it even more difficult to focus on the narrow and keep your attention there. Who knows? But nonetheless, if you've ever had, there it goes again. If you've ever had like a microdose or let's say a threshold dose of of psychedelics, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you can still be totally almost sober. Just things are a little sparkly. And maybe you have just a little bit of a inner smile that's getting radiated out through your being. And that's pretty much it. Like you can still go and make a sandwich. You can still call your mom. You can still do pretty much anything that you needed to do. In fact, oftentimes at that level, you might even be able to do it a bit better. You might be more high functioning at certain tasks, like things that require muscle dexterity and such. Or focus, right? Or focus. There have been experiments with mushrooms that show that they've tended to increase the capability of hunters at night. So at least that's the theory in any case. Maybe I don't know if it's been proven or not. We could always try that. Maybe ask Joe Rogan. All right, so nonetheless, there is this sort of, you're still in touch with reality, and you can see clearly, and maybe even sharper than normal. And that's kind of like the state, the peak state, when I was in it, when I saw the code. So it seemed more like it was somehow having the ability to train my visual functioning, my focusing capacity, to be able to perceive at a different focal length or in a different way. Probably it could just be like a different focal length. It might just be you need to be right there on the money and then boop, you see it. Boop, it's just right there. And once you see it, like a magic eye, you can just see it like that and you can't unsee it. But if you've ever tried to describe a magic eye to somebody who can't see it, who hasn't allowed their visual focus to snap in yet, they're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't see anything. I can't see anything. But then once you see it, you see it. And the difference between the laser code and a magic eye is that for a magic eye to work, you need to actually see it in stereo vision. If you cover one eye, it doesn't work. You need both eyes to be able to see the magic eye, to see the optical illusion come into form. But not so with the code. You only need one eye to see it, which lends itself to the theory that it's less likely that this is some type of hallucination or optical illusion of some kind. All right, so I think that was mainly what I wanted to cover the code is real. There is something there. I don't know what it means. I do have to run the experiment again because, like I said, it only snapped into focus that one time. But when it did, it was enough for me to say, oh, yes, that is definitely there. I'm not tripping out of my mind. I'm not hallucinating. There's nothing swirling in my vision. I'm not getting things melting. The ceiling hasn't turned into an ocean. I'm not at that level. I'm barely under the influence of this thing. And then, boom, it's right there, and it's just there. So, nonetheless, don't know what it means, but the code is there for sure. So, love to, hopefully experience more of this at some point in the future when conditions are right again. Perhaps I can see the superstructures or the code just more and more clearly. I'll tell you this, I can even share a little clip of a video. Perhaps I'll put it in this one, where two other people were seeing it with me that same day. And one of them could just see it in such extravagant detail that I couldn't. Like, they were describing things about the structure of it and the intricacy of the particular symbols that I couldn't see. I could just see the shapes, just like somebody drew it with a pencil. But the way he was describing it, it seemed like just it profoundly numinous and just of the form of ancient architecture laden with symbolic geometry. So again, I didn't see that level of it, but we'll just have to see at some point in the future. Maybe I'll get the opportunity to check it out again. And also, Danny is coming out with his documentary soon. I believe it's going to be out maybe in December. So super excited about that. Keep an eye out for that. And you can check out more about him at codeofreality.com or Dan Go Thoughts. I'll put the link again to our podcast. And there was something else that I wanted to share with you guys, but I'll be just keeping you guys updated with what things I'm up to, doing a workshop here in Wilmington, Delaware next month. So that's going to be, I'm excited about that. That'll be, forthcoming. And thank you so much for watching and checking out and just, involving yourself with the conversation. Whether you think it's real or you disagree and think it's just all hallucination, hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's funny, though, because I did see somebody say that. I think it was Chase Hughes. And he said, the people who haven't seen it yet are the most convinced as to what it is. And everyone that sees it is like, I don't know what that is. What? I don't know what it is, but it's there. So something to think about just in terms of, don't always assume that what you think is correct. And always just sort of judge a situation before you've had a time to really listen to the other side's argument. And if you're able to, see if you can step into their shoes in some way so that you can experience firsthand what it is they're trying to point to. All right. But hey, you're free to do that or not to do it. Much love either way. Appreciate you so much. And have an amazing day. I'll see you guys around. Much love.
I am Allah, I am Yahweh Ababa. No one may test the Father.